thing down, I'm going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's going to be biblical.
Boom. Hello, welcome to Patriots Across the Pond and Friends, Episode 3, my co-host Elisa V, and our special guest today, Larry Ballard. How are you both?
Doing great.
Good.
Elisa, you've been a little bit poorly, haven't you? So you feeling a bit chipper again now?
I'm feeling better. Yeah, still have a little nasal stuff going on, but yeah, I just rested. You know, I don't take anything. I did a detox bath, which was great, and I just do, turmeric and ginger, and I just rest.
Good.
The body needs to rest.
Well, you're sounding a lot better anyway. Larry, how are you? Lovely to meet you.
I am doing great. I'm as honored to be here. I've got a completely new audience because we're doing Across the Pond. We're going over to Europe, and so to your audience, I'm going to say something. I'm here in America, but I'm an author of a couple of books, and they're not focused at just America. America is the hub of the control center for the global financial elite. So what happens in America affects the rest of the world. So when I talk about America, I need you to understand I'm talking about global things. It's as pertinent to England, to all of Europe, to all the world as it is to America. Because if America falls, the rest of the world falls. And basically the nation that is being most aggressively attacked is the United States of America, because the global financial elite understand that if they're going to have their one world dictatorship, the one nation that stands in their way is the United States of America. So please listen to this through the filter. If I say America, just put your own country in. I'm talking about all of us. We're all God's children, and we're all in the same boat, and we all share the same enemy. So with that, if you don't mind, since this is an audience that I've never had contact with, I think for a little credibility, I should take a couple of minutes and tell them who I am. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, that's absolutely
Yes.
fine. Just want to say what you said, yeah. The 16-year plan, they had to destroy America. If America had fallen, the world would have fallen with it. That is why people ask me about, why do you keep banging on about America if you're in the UK? And this is why. I just want to say as well, we're 40 minutes early coming on, people, but Larry was here. We're all excited, so we're just going to get on with it, and it's going to be a great show.
All right, so here, who am I? Well, I'm an older guy, and there's something about that. They say the Chinese say there's wisdom in age. So we'll find out if you think I've got any wisdom or not. But anyway, when I was a young whippersnapper, I had a motorcycle wreck in 1968. I came around a curve in the Ozark Mountains and dropped oil and gravel and didn't put a sign. And that road took a hairpin curve, and I went straight over a cliff. And basically what happened is when I gained consciousness, I saw the most amazing sight I could ever imagine. My motorcycle was in a pine tree with the back squeal still spinning, and I hit a tree and I was unconscious. And it's a good thing both me and the motorcycle collided with the tree, because on the other side of that, a few yards away, was a 300-foot canyon. So at any rate, I'm alive. But I'm having 4 hours of visitation from the Lord, and it's not talk, it's all telepathic, and everything's like a computer download. And I got a story that said, your entire life has changed this moment. I wasn't a Christian. When you get up off this ground, you're to read the Bible, you're to read the Quran, you're to read history, and you're to read all kinds of different things. So I had no idea how any of this was going to come together. I had to read about climatology. I had to read about geology, sociology, anthropology, archaeology, all kinds of things, the Bible. I had to read the Quran cover to cover, because God says you got to know your enemy. You've got to know them as well as you know yourself. And so then he sent me on a journey. He said, here's what your life is going to look like. You're going to change jobs every 3 years. And the jobs you have, you're not going to be qualified for, but you're going to get them anyway, because I want you to have them. They're going to be strategically significant jobs all around the world. So let me give you a little job history and a little travel history and a little history of why I'm still alive. And then you'll understand this journey that I've been on. So I'm working going through college. I'm working for who? Monsanto Chemical Company. Why? GMOs. And then I'm working in the summers building skyscrapers, 30-foot tall buildings right across from the arch in St. Louis, Missouri. Why? I'm working with something called thermite, which is the non-explosive version of how they brought those towers down. So when those towers came down, I didn't need any instructions. I knew immediately there's nothing in the world that can bring a steel building down other than thermite. The fire from a jet airplane doesn't burn anywhere near enough to melt metal, but thermite burns at 4,500 degrees. And when you look at the pictures, folks, and let me ask you a question and just ponder this for a second. Those planes hit on the 73rd floor. How do you account for the fact that deep in the basement, the stairwells from the lobby to the basement were blown out, and all of the beams in the basement were cut on a 45-degree angle facing in? And how do you account for tons of molten metal other than through thermite? Now, let's go on. So where do I go next? I had a degree in speech. I was going to be a teacher. But God says, you're going to work for Atomic Energy of Canada. What? I'm not qualified. God says, you're going to work for Atomic Energy of Canada. I said, okay, headhunter, give me an interview. Don't give him a resume, because he'll never give me the interview. I walk in, I hand him my resume. They glance at it and they said, Mr. Ballard, you're not qualified. I said, look, let's be real. You don't have another interview for an hour. Give me 10 minutes. If you don't like what I have to say, I'll get up and walk out. So they're standing up. They're ready for me to leave. I remain seated. God says, you sit in that chair and you watch. You're going to get this job. And I said, hey, I did my homework. You know what? You want a double E electronics engineer or you want a PhD physicist? And guess what? The last two people you had, you're fired because they couldn't do the job. Maybe what you need is a salesman. Look at my resume. I can sell anything to anybody. So they listened to me for an hour. I left. 2 months passed. I guess they interviewed every PhD physicist that they could get their hands on, and every double E electronic engineer, and they hired me. And I went to work for Atomic Energy Canada. Where did I have to learn? Oh, I learned about socialized medicine, because that was going to come up under Carter and under Obama. And what did I also learn about? The dangers of energy, and how energy could be used to control all of the necessities of life. And then what happened? God says, hey, you're going over to Europe. And so I got a job with CGRMEV in Paris, France. And why was that? Because we were going to merge all of the nations of Europe into the European Union, which God sent me to the Bible and said, go to the book of Revelation. I'm going to show you why you got that job. And why did I get it? Because God says in the book of Revelation, I think it's chapter 13, he says there's going to be a time when there'll be 10 kings upon whose heads crowns shall not stand but for 1 hour with the beast. And then he says, now go to the UN and I'll show you what that means. I go to the UN and right there, clear as can be. Anybody can go out and find it. It says the goal of the global financial elite is to establish a 10-nation worldwide trading bloc that becomes the beast system that determines who can buy and who can sell. And now you're in England, you're in Britain. And guess what? You were part of that system. And then you got the idea that maybe it wasn't so good to be under Brussels, and you guys got out with Brexit. And now what's happening? If you look at Europe, Europe is in trouble. France is in deep, deep trouble. Macron's in trouble. Germany's in trouble. You got energy issues. I hate to say it, but you guys are crumbling. But guess what? The world is encountering something never before encountered. Russia's in trouble. China's in deep donkey dong. Iran's in trouble. America's in trouble. This is the orchestrated global financial collapse that was triggered when we had a certain thing released upon us in 2019 that shut the world down. And that is what we've been living under ever since. So let's go on down and I'll finish my part of the story real quick. So you can see God put me in all these different places so that I would have insights that people don't have. Then the next big important one, as I was in real estate, that was my second career. And what did I learn? Well, I had worked in construction. I owned 11 rental properties. I had rehabbed several of those. I had generaled two of my own houses. And so I think I know real estate better than anybody. So guess what? When '08 came around, I knew exactly what they were doing. I knew that they had collapsed the stock market in '08. I knew that they had given trade away under Carter. And I knew now the assault was on the one remaining cylinder of the economy, real estate. And I knew exactly what was happening. By the way, folks, there's an even bigger real estate collapse coming. It's going to be devastating. It's going to take down not just the residential market, but the commercial market. So if you'll stay with me and we come back frequently, we'll cover all those topics and more. So just a little bit more. So that's my travel. And the last thing I want to say, so I'm going all of those places in the world for these jobs. God said, you need to go to China. So I had a patent and I got in. The minute they opened the door, I'm over there and I'm looking at getting tool and die making done. And I got access to something people know. I got to see inside of a real legitimate sweatshop. And I walked away and said, oh my God, what they're offering me to do this is the 10th of what I'm going to pay in the United States. And bingo, I knew exactly what it was. They're going to take my tool and die making project and they're going to keep a copy of it and make the product over there. So I went back and I paid way, way more and I got it made right here in the United States because I saw what was coming. And why was I there when I was there? Because I was there for a whole month. And while I was there, just a few days before the massacre in Tiananmen Square, I was standing in the middle of Tiananmen Square, surrounded by an army of young people pawing at me. What's it like to be an American? What's it like to have freedom? What's it like to own a home? The day that happened, I was on the Great Wall. And before I left, from that point forward, I was scared to death. Every place I went, there were military on every corner. When I was at the airport, there were military standing there with Tommy guns. And I was afraid, God, I might not get on this plane. But basically, God had me there because I had to realize something. Here's the key to understanding what's going on in China. Basically, the Chinese communists made a mistake when they had that massacre. The whole nation was ready to revolt. You should have been there. It was so tense, you can't even imagine. So the CCP said, hey, guess what, folks? We'll make you a deal. If you'll agree to live under communism, we'll agree to give you a better standard of living. We'll get you into the middle class, and we'll give you full employment for the rest of your life. And what's that done? That's led to the collapse of China, because here's what happened. They indiscriminately had to keep those people working. So they built ghost cities, never to be populated. They built high-speed rails with no customers. They built massive infrastructure products with no ROI. And if we think we're in debt, they're way deeper in debt. China is falling. So I can do shows on that too sometime if you want. But basically, they sowed their own seed of destruction because they had to embark on an economy that said at all costs, we must have full employment. And that has led to the economic collapse of China. And what have we seen? If you go on and you do any research at all, you're seeing that under Carter, we sent all the money over there and built the factories. But now all that money is leaving the largest single factory in the world, Foxconn, which had 100,000 people manufacturing your cell phone, is now going to 5 different nations. Before this year is out, China will have been gutted manufacturally. The real estate market is literally collapsing, and they are in deep trouble. They have to fall for America to rise. And guess what? When it's all done, here's the good news. All these people we see are enemies were never our enemies. They were controlled and puppeted, just like the United States, by the global financial elite. When those regimes fall, we're going to find out that China has some amazing technology. And a China free, the CCP, is going to embrace Christianity. They have one of the largest underground religious Christian religion factors in the entire world. And guess what? Iran also has a pretty good Christian background. So the whole world's changing, and we're moving into a period of peace and prosperity. So last piece of my history, and that is God said, when you come out, it's going to be dangerous. They're going to be killing people, and you're going to know that you might be a target. So I want you to know that you've got a guardian angel that's going to be with you for the rest of your life. I'm never going to leave you, but I need to put a little fear in you. So you're going to have a bunch of accidents. Everyone should kill you. You're going to walk away, dust off everything and walk away. I'm working in construction. I'm 5 stories up on the outside of a building. Calculate the probability of what I'm about to say. I take my safety harness and I hook it on. I lean back, hands free. It breaks. I'm alive. My foot goes up and catches, and I hang there for 45 minutes until they come up and get me. I'm offloading steel on the ground. Safest job on the whole job site, right? It's the 60s. Mini skirts. The crane operator's 3 stories in the ground. There's a guy on the fence watching me and watching him, but he's really watching the mini skirts, and he goes, that's the up sign, and 10 tons of steel comes swinging at me. I grab on with one hand, and I'm 10 stories up in the air before they see me. Bernard panics, puts the brakes on, and the thing goes, I almost fall. When I got down, it took me 10 minutes before I could stand up. Then I'm on an automobile wreck at 70 miles an hour, head on. And the cars back then were different. They were bigger and roomier. I was the passenger. I jumped in the back seat. We hit a bridge embankment on my side, and the engine ended up where I was sitting. And then I was in a cave accident. I don't know if this is an artery or a blood vessel, but if you pop it, you're dead. It was lacerated in a cave accident. They took me in the emergency room. The doctor touched it. It burst in the emergency room. And it was an hour and a half drive from the cave to the emergency room. I should be dead, but I'm not. And then I'll take you to the end. There were more, but I don't want to bore you to death. The last one was very important. And you can go on. I got a new book coming out, and my publisher went, I couldn't believe she did this. All the years back, it got the headline for what I'm going to tell you. I'm on the Blue Goose, which later became Southwest Airlines, sitting on the wing, taking off from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and we get up in the air and I hear this boom right on the wing. I look out and the engine's on fire and parts are falling out on the runway, and we're circling, and it's just a twin engine job. So we're listing at about a 20-25 degree angle. They're jettisoning all the fuel and coming back around, all the emergency equipment's out, and we're ready to crash and burn up and do a fireball. At the last second, that pilot was amazing. He flipped that wing up in the air, and we landed and we bounced down. But in the meantime, here's what happened. God said, are you tired of this? Do you want to graduate? I said, yeah, I'm ready. He said, stand up and say what I say. And I stood up and I said, God said, not one person on this airplane is going to have one hair on their head harmed. We will all land safely. So the headline in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota airplane crash was, plane has mid-engine explosion, land safely, not one person harmed. That was the last time I had to have an experience like that. So that's my history. That's what I've been doing for 56 years, archiving material so that I can interject myself into any news story and tell you the political aspect, the historical aspect, the geopolitical aspect, and basically bring clarity so that at the appointed time, we could deliver a message, me and many others have been called, that would open the people's eyes and set us free and make us understand we are all God's children. We are not each other's enemies. We are going to live in peace. And going to Donald Trump and this financial reset, do you think it's a coincidence that he's negotiated 6 peace agreements? And if we count Israel, and at last that'll be 7, leaving only one major one left, that's Ukraine. You can't have an economic collapse and that's going to turn into peace and prosperity of the world unless you get rid of all the wars. There's much more going on than people think. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, and we can start this presentation. I just thought your audience would know that.
No, that's perfect, Larry. Thank you very much. Can I just ask you one quick question about that? Now, about Brexit, obviously, we know that elections have been selections and stolen for years and years and years. And in the UK, when we were going through Brexit, the country was pretty much divided. Now, I personally believe that was about 80% of people wanted to leave and didn't really tell people about it. But I think the vote came in at 52 to 48%, that magic number that we always hear all the time. Do you think this white hat military alliance and Trump had a part in that as one of the initial moves of dismantling this globalist agenda?
You ever heard of Steve Bannon?
Yeah, of course. The punny badger.
Then the answer to your question is emphatically yes. So let's go back in history. We go back. This all started with the White Hats back probably maybe before this, but it started with Kennedy's assassination, when the group of the military understood that he had been assassinated because what He was getting rid of the Fed. He was issuing silver certificates. He was not going to send more ground troops into Vietnam. That's shelling the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about. And he was, let's see, what was the third thing? How he's going against the CIA. Because he understood that basically here's how the three-letter agencies have been taken over. We went into World War II. We had to have a spy network. We didn't have one. We used the Council on Foreign Relations, who was a globalist entity. And so from the inception, our CIA was controlled, and Kennedy was coming off the Bay of Pigs, and he understood what the CIA had done and how they brought us to the brink there. And so he was going to also take the control away from the CIA. So he was going against the three most powerful control mechanisms in the world. So they had to kill him. The portion of the military that knew that and stood against it became the White Hats. And now to answer your question specifically about England, basically Bannon was assigned to go to England and to work with Nigel and to say, hey, Nigel, do you need any help? You know, we can give you money. We can give you connections. We can give you, but we have to kind of stay in the background. But we'll help you in any way we can. And we did. So I hope that answers your question.
That's good enough for me. Definitely. Right. Elisa, you want to say anything, or should we get these slides on?
No, let's just get started because we'll just keep talking. Larry said so many things. I had so many thoughts, but let's just proceed. Okay, Larry.
There we go. Understanding Trump's America First agenda. And here I want to make a comment. America has to heal itself first. We're on the brink of absolute collapse. Once we've healed, once we've got control of our government, once we're wealthy again, we are in a position to reach out and help the rest of the world. So right now we have to take care of our business first, because only a strong America can help the rest of the world. Let's go on down, and I'm going to give you my personal secret weapon for free. I'm not going to charge a penny. Basically, I've never been able to be brainwashed. God's always seen to it that I saw through everything, and here's how I do it. He gave me a cipher. He said the key to understanding current events rests in understanding these 10 things over here. You cannot have a sovereign government unless you have each and every one of those things. And I'm going to tell you how to view a newscast so that you can see the truth and not be brainwashed. We have to have geopolitical realignment. The whole world has to come together. We're not each other's enemies. And we have to have sovereign currency. A nation that doesn't have sovereign currency is not sovereign. We have to have sovereign borders. A nation that doesn't have a sovereign border has no nation to be sovereign over. We have to have honest elections, not selections, as you said, Stu. We have to have resource independence, because basically, there's a saying that he who controls money controls the world, but you got to go to the genesis of everything. God always gives me deeper understanding. Where does money come from? It comes from God's natural resources, from oil, from coal, from steel, from wheat, from whatever, that's turned into manufactured goods that's sold. And at that point, it becomes money. And at that point, it can be used to control the 8 spheres of influence for evil, or it can be used to free mankind and bring us into a period of peace and prosperity that's unparalleled. And then we go to energy. People don't understand that everything you have ever bought or ever will buy in your life, if we get free energy, will probably be reduced by 50, 60, 70%, depending on the complexity of the logistics system. Because if you think about it, everything that you buy, the principal cost is what? Energy. I'm going to give you an example. My son's in logistics. And basically, let's take the manufacture of a car, because it's one of the most complicated logistics systems in the world. It starts in a strip mine with a great big crane that digs up 10 tons of ore at a time, drops it into a huge truck run by diesel, both of them. So we're using fossil fuels, goes to a smelt run by coal and smelts that, then goes on a ship and gets transferred all around the world using diesel. And then it's manufactured and shipped out all over the world in ships using diesel. And basically then it's purchased by you driving to your car to wherever you go to buy it. And all that, every single piece of the logistic network runs on energy. If we get free energy, which we're about to get, the cost of everything changes. The world changes. That's something that's coming. They're no longer going to be able to control all the necessities of life, because if they control energy, They control the cost of housing, the cost of your automobile. I just saw something yesterday on the news, and the automakers are in deep donkey dong, and especially the more expensive vehicles like the trucks and the SUVs. They're having fire sales like you can't believe. They're basically slashing those prices, and part of what's coming is we're getting ready. Behind the scenes, Trump said America will be the leading auto manufacturer in the world. Kim Clement said, I'm going to use Ford Motor in the United States of America to bring forth a new technology, a new engine. And basically, I believe that that's on the horizon right now. There's a lot of stuff happening with energy. Let's get on a manufacturing prowess. That's where the money comes from. And so Trump is saying, build America, buy America. That's the source of our money. Equitable trade agreements. So starting with Carter, we had intentionally losing trade agreements. We started out when NAFTA came in under Clinton, a 200-year-old nation, a $660 billion national debt, and bam, now we're $38 trillion. And it was either from wars, entitlements, or intentionally losing trade. All of those things are changing. Global financial parity. You can't have peace. And it was Eisenhower who said, is there any man, is there any woman, is there any child that doesn't understand the principal cause of war is inequity between nations? That's what causes war. And so basically, we're going to free up all the natural resources of the world and share them equitably, and all the nations are going to have parity, and we're going to end the wars. And that's what Trump's doing. And shared values. For eons, what happened is there were tribal factions that fought against each other and hated each other, and all of that is changing, and the whole world is signing peace agreements, and we're going to come into a period of peace and prosperity. So that was a mouthful. Let me stop and see if either one of you would care to comment, to challenge what I say, or to add to it, please.
No, I'm fine. I'm just intrigued and interested to listen.
So we go on?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next slide.
Next slide. Next slide. Now, I apologize to Stu before we started. I'm going to apologize to his audience, but he says his audience is awake, so I guess you guys will understand. The global financial elite use nations. And they started using England a long, long time ago. Here's the history behind it. At one point in time, England broke away from the Vatican, and they established the Church of England. And that was a no-no. So basically, Spain, under Prince Philip, was assigned to attack England and destroy it. And God had different plans. Here's what happened. A giant armada comes on the coast of England. It's going to obliterate them. And they've got these little merchant ships, and they put a cannon or two on them, and they're out there, and they're just getting decimated. And the Spanish admiral says, let's just get rid of these pesky troublemakers and cut our anchors, because the one advantage they have is our little ships can move faster than us. So they cut those anchors, and guess what? God was right there, and a hurricane hit, and the balance of power changed, and all those ships were sunk, and England became the superpower of the world. And so England has been controlled ever since that battle. They've been the puppet that's been controlled by the global financial elite, and they went on to control most of the land. If you see those red spots in the world, those were all colonial empires, the empire upon which the sun never set. And when the monarchies of Europe began to fall, they had amassed all of the wealth of the world and became what we now know as the IMF, the Vatican Bank, the World Bank, and they use money to control the world. And so basically what you're looking at is England still, by virtue of controlling the money, controls the world. They are the principal puppet of the global financial elite. The second puppet is the Vatican, and that you need to go history to understand that. And the third puppet is they usurped the power of the United States, and they control the District of Columbia, i.e. Washington, D.C. Those are the three entities that are puppeted by the global financial elite in order to control the rest of the world. So I'm not saying anything bad against England. I'm just saying they always pick a strong nation to use as a puppet. That's England, and that's the Vatican in Italy, and that's the United States of America. Comments before we go on?
No.
Right. I need to go down to the lower part of this, and I want to show you how their plan unfolds. So initially, back in the 15th century, the idea was to control England and let it go out and get control of the entire world. Then once they had all the gold and all the land secured, they said, we need somebody to be our police force. And that became the United States. And so they gave power to the United States for a period of time. And then they saw to it that we were in World War I and World War II, and were enriched by that and became the naval superpower of the world, the military superpower of the world, and the financial superpower of the world. Well, after World War II, all the world was decimated, except America wasn't in the theater of war. We had manufactured everything. We had most of the world's gold, and we were the only stable nation in the world. So we became the world's reserve currency at Bretton Woods. Now what you need to know is there's a second Bretton Woods happening right before your eyes, and people don't know it. And in the fall of all nations, I'm going to be doing a show in the next couple of weeks on the 7-step process for how nations fall. It's going to be different this time. In the past, one nation would invade another nation, and that nation would be destroyed, and the invaders who won would be the new superpowers. That's not going to happen this time. Here's what's going to happen. Everything is shifting, and we're in that final reset. And what's going to happen is China's not going to be the superpower. Neither is Russia, neither is Iran, neither is India, neither is the United States. We're going to have a global deglobalization and de-dollarization, and America will come out of this as the predominant world's reserve currency, not the sole reserve currency. Power will be shared by nations around the world, creating parity and an opportunity for peace and prosperity. So now where we're at is, guess what? America's day in the sun was taken away when they decided to transfer power to China, and now they're collapsing China because they said China got too big for their britches, and now they want to collapse China. And that brings us into COVID and 2019, where the goal is to collapse all of the major governments of the world and usher in their great reset and basically kill 7.5 billion of us people and take over the world with a global financial dictatorship. So that's where we're at. We're in the intentional collapse of every major geopolitical institution in the world to bring in their new great what? One world dictatorship. So comments, I mean, a couple of these are pretty deep. You got any comments before we go on?
The only comment I'll make is that this, in essence, this particular slide is so important for people to really understand, because this is the basis for where we are today and why we need to collapse everything. So, you know, it's about history, you know, to a large extent, that people need to understand how we got where we are. So thank you.
Yeah.
And what God does for me, because I have so much knowledge, He allows me to see things from the 60,000-foot level, where I'm out from the trees where you can't see anything. So each time I go down, I get simpler and simpler. We drill down. So the next slide is going to take those 10 and it's going to drill it down even further. So let's go to the next slide, and we'll see and understand how the global financial elite control us. They have to control the banking system. He who controls money controls the world. They have to control the international corporations. So where do we have people who tell us what's going on. So basically President Lincoln, when they started to form the corporations, he said, I fear for our great nation, because the banks are now merging with the corporations, and a period of control and manipulation will result. And that's created the corporatocracy. And then we move forward and we come to the point that we get another warning from another president, and that is Eisenhower saying, I fear for what? For the military industrial complex and the abuse of power. So if you take a look at what's happening, you've got now a picture of the control mechanism that controls the entire world. It's those three entities, and it's the puppet masters above who are using them. So that's where we're at. So basically, all three branches of our government have been taken over, and we're getting them back. So there was a decision that was made just this past week from the Supreme Court. And what's Trump been trying to do? Everything he's trying to do. Injunction, lawsuit. And basically the courts just came down and said, shame on you. You know, we've created a government based on the Constitution, and it says there's three branches, and the one at the top is the executive. And you judges, you left-leaning judges out there who want to enforce a global dictatorship on us need to understand you don't have the right, you federal district judges, to come in and basically say to the executive, you can't deport people, you can't fire people, you can't whatever. So Trump just got his hands untied, and I'm telling you folks, get ready. The tsunami of truth is getting ready to come out, and the power is about to shift. So we're going to take over all the 3-letter agencies. We're going to have all that disclosures, and there's more to bringing all those generals in than people think. That'll come out in the next few weeks. And then the UN and all its global governments organizations are going to be exposed. And so let's look at some recent newscasts. And Trump went in and said, hey, NATO, that's part of UN, right? I'm tired of America being your police force and you not paying your share. So here's what. You protect your own nations. You basically build your own army. We'll sell you all the materials you need. And by the way, if you want any help at all from us, you're going to pay 5%. And then what did he do? He went to the UN and said, shame, shame, shame. You were our great hope for peace and prosperity, and all you've done is inflicted pain and wars on us. And so he's basically saying, hey, either ship up or ship out, because if America pulls out of the UN's over. And basically, he's basically restructuring the entire world. So this quote down below tells you early on where we were coming from. The Council on Foreign Relations, here's who gave us our FBI and our CIA, says, the Council on Foreign Relations is the American branch of a society which originated in England. That was their first puppet, and believes national borders should be obliterated. In other words, wide open borders, and one world rule established. And that was by a very important person, Dr. Carol Quigley, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. So he endorses this program. And guess what? He was the mentor of one Clinton. He was the mentor of Clinton. Can you imagine that? A man put into the presidency to represent the global financial elite and mentored by one of their people.
It's funny how those connections.
You guys aren't challenging much. You're not talking much. Come on, help me out here.
Well, okay, yeah, I was just saying it's funny how these connections keep coming up, isn't it? But you mentioned the generals there. Are you talking about the meeting with Hegseth when all the 800 generals got called in?
Yep.
Yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
What we're going to find out is it was more than about DEI and LGTB. It was more about that. There probably were a lot of generals that were let go because they were involved in basically diluting the U.S. military. So let's go back and let's take a snapshot and we'll see, is it possible that our military has been to a large degree taken over? Well, one, Barack Obama, who we now know, came in and said, I am the great uniter. It turned out to be the great divider. And he said, I'm a Christian. But when he was asked on TV about his faith, what did he say? He says, oh, do you mean my Muslim faith? And remember, now he's a Muslim. And he's also gay, we found out. So how did we get same-sex marriage? We got same-sex marriage because of the Council on Foreign Relations, and because they have a strategy. Here's what they do. They come in, and I don't have that quote pulled up, but I can kind of paraphrase it for you. Here's how we got same-sex marriage and how we get so many things that harm us. Here's what happens. They use people at the ground level. They pay them, all these protesters, Black Lives Matter, and all these protesters that are out last week during the No Kings protest, they're paid to go protest. And in this instance, they were protesting for same-sex marriage. And they've been protesting forever and got no ground. And now along comes a homosexual president, and he sends out his newscasters to cover it, and he makes the story look like it's huge. And the will of the people is that we have same-sex marriage, and the next thing you know, Obama says we've got it. So here's what they do to us that we don't understand. They create a ground wave from the bottom, even though it's with the small people. They give them the microphone, and they look at like we want something that's definitely not in our interest. And then the executive comes in and says the will of the people is, and we get same-sex marriage. And that's what they do to us over and over. So there's another one of those lenses you need to understand in order to decipher what's being done to us. So I think I lost a little bit of the essence of your question. So you might need to restate it. Am I on cue or not?
Oh,
Yeah. No, well, Stu, I don't know if he answered your question. I actually had a comment on what
Yeah,
what I
no,
just
I
said?
just wanted to know a little bit more about that meeting of the 800 generals coming in, because
Okay, yeah. Okay. So back to that. So what's happening is we're getting back control of our military readiness. So here I was going to Obama. So I was talking about Obama because I needed to tell you about him, because what he said when he came in, I'm going to reduce the size of the American military to a level acceptable to my Muslim brothers. And so he weakened our military. They put the LGT in and all the DEI, and now all of that's been taken up. We're getting ready to be militarily aggressive. We've changed the name from the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and we're putting the world on notice. America is back. Don't mess with us. We have the ability to defend ourselves, and you will be very sorry if you do it. There's a lot happening in the background. That was the cue to tell us the military that was under Obama is not the military under Bush. I mean, under Trump. I hope that answers your question. And Lisa, you were going to have a comment or a question?
Yeah, kind of a comment. So I think that two things. First, with regard to the military, I think it's more about the show, or the metaphor of what really went on, because I think all that was already done when they actually bring it in public to let everyone know, though, what really is already in place. But about the Obama thing, I think it goes deeper than what you're saying. Like, okay, so would the agenda just have been to have same-sex marriage? No, I think that was the catalyst, but the real agenda is just this whole, number one, breakdown of the family. It was also about pulling the power, or the natural manliness of the men in America, to put this idea that, and again, it's not that I don't think any of us in essence have anything against our brothers and sisters that choose a different way of life, but it was a more sinister. It wasn't really about because anybody cared about that community or really cared about the gay and lesbian community. I think it was more about, again, using them, as the hammer to take away the power of what the true American man and what his role is in the family, in our nation, in protector position, because it really went a lot deeper, because it started to change the psyche and the view of the family unit, of what men are supposed to be, by, like you say, taking this small group, and then the media makes it look like it's most of the country. I just think that group in particular needs to realize that anything that was done openly to make it seem like they were so in favor of being their, protector, really were just being used for much deeper and nefarious reasons. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I wish I had that quote up. What I was trying to say is, that's a strategy for how they impose all kinds of things on us that are not in our best interest. Right. They basically use a bunch of bought and paid for people to protest, to raise an issue to a higher level. They use the media to distort it. And then the selected people at the top say, that's a mandate for the people, and we're going to force that on you. So basically, it goes across the whole spectrum. So let's dive into a couple of the things that you said. So it was, I think, Stalin or Lenin who said that America was too strong to take down from without. The only hope we had was if we could take it down from within and from
infiltration.
So what did they say? Here's what he said: if we can destroy America's patriotism, Christian and family and moral values, America will rot from the inside. Then it will be susceptible to attack from the outside. Then they went one further, and they sent in millions of illegal immigrants, hundreds of thousands of which are probably terrorists, so that they can have the hope of having an army attack us from the inside while they bring armies from the outside and ultimately bring America down. So no, that was just to say, if you understand that strategy, bottom up, top down, inflict something detrimental to the United States on them, then you could look at these things as they happen and understand they're all being orchestrated, and this is the mechanism by which they're orchestrated. So you're right. It's much broader than that. I was just using that as one example.
Yeah, and let's not only just look at America, because this whole immigration thing, the other aspect of that, aside from what you say, which is of course valid with from a military standpoint, and having these people in there that you said might be terrorists or whatever, they're not American, they're not British, they're not French. These people, it destroys the fabric of the national pride, right? And of watering down what each nation, what they have to be proud of, and what makes that nation very special in their own way. And that's the other thing, because now that you water it down, like you said, it goes down to patriotism, because they're not patriotic. So people need to, and that's the reason we wanted to do this show. We need to always look deeper. Who is benefiting from all these changes and all these things, and how are people being used as puppets? And then we turn again, we've been trained to turn against each other, right? I mean, that's the key.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to talk in detail about immigration and some slides that'll come up later. And then at that point, if you've got questions, let's drill deeper down into it. But right now, should we go to the next slide?
Yeah, just quickly, Elisa and I have been talking lately about those 11 protocols of the Frankfurt School, and how this destruction of society has been happening for a long, long time, and it goes into all aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next
I'm
slide.
not familiar with this particular protocol, so I can't comment on that. But basically, they've got. Imagine this: you go into a boardroom in the morning, and what you're talking about is, how do we kill the maximum number of people? How do we destroy? How do we create a war? Whatever. That's their agenda. It's all basically they look at us as if we're what they call chattel. And chattel, and from feudal Europe, is basically personal property. It's an oxen. And they think about stepping on a cockroach. We're cockroaches. That's what we're, useful idiots. That's all we are. We're just here to be used by them. And as automation evolves and AI evolves, they're telling us already, they're coming to a time when we're not going to need you anymore. And then the greatest challenge facing the world going forward is, how do we get rid of all the superfluous, useless eaters? And that's where COVID comes in, war comes in, the chemtrails come in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to understand they are absolutely deadly serious when they say they want to eradicate, just like the Georgia Guidestone says, they want to populate 500,000 people, 500 million people, down from nearly 8 billion. So bottom line is, we're in the way. And if we don't win this war, we're not going to have to worry about it, because most of us are going to be dead.
Yeah. And it'd probably be better to be than be part of that 500 million left, I would have thought, don't you? Yeah. Right, next slide.
The White House gave us a sign when they used a directed energy beam and took out the Georgia Guidestone. Come on, folks, we're winning. We're winning. Let's face up. Let's pay attention. Shall we go to the next slide?
Yes.
Otherwise, we'll be here till the cows come home. All right, so this is summing it up again. Here we go, real quick. Here's the bottom line. America will lead the world into a better tomorrow. How are they going to do it? Here it is, real simple. We get control of the natural resources of the world. That's why Trump has declared a national emergency to get access to what? Natural resources, minerals around the world, rebuild America. We have to basically control manufacturing, control trade, turn it into money, and this time use it to benefit humanity. And that gives us the ability to take control of the 8 spheres of influence away from the global financial elite. So now, under this unfolding new economic system, we control the family, religion, education, media, entertainment, the political system. People are not selected, they're elected. We control the economy, meaning the monetary system. We get control of the military. And basically, now everything is in the hands of the white hats, and we have a restored republic. And now we get back our patriotism, our Christian, and our family values, and the core of what made America great is restored, and that's transferred to the rest of the world.
Beautiful.
So we go on?
Next slide.
Yes.
All right, this is just, we're summing up. So that 8 spheres of influence, here it is. The political arena, selected politicians, and we're having a tsunami of truth. Day after day, another indictment comes, another one, Comey, Brennan. Now we've got Obama maybe being on the chopping block and Hillary, and on it goes. So we're draining the swamp. Trump's coming against Powell, against the central bank. We've got a $38 trillion national debt. 1/3 of it is going to be refinanced this year. So it is absolutely critical that the central bank be brought down this year so that we can refinance at lower interest rates and avoid a catastrophic bankruptcy, of a soft bankruptcy. And then we're seeing more and more and more. And was it Lincoln who said, I fear for my great nation because of the mergers of the banks and corporations who will utterly control us. And so let's look at the DEI movement and what are they doing? And the LGTB, they're basically puppeted by the global financial elite who say to the corporations, if you don't endorse our green movement or LGBT movement or DEI movement, you'll not get any credit. And the world runs on credit. And so what did Anheuser-Busch have to do? They had to put a photograph of a transvestite on their beer can. And what did it cost them? It cost them the leadership as the #1 beer in the world, and it cost them $27 billion. And corporations are being outed one by one, and heaven help the pharmaceutical companies when we get all the truth about what they've done to us. So all those spheres of influence on the top rung are collapsing, and let's go down to the bottom. First thing Trump did says, we're getting our education system back because who was it? It was Reagan who said,
oh, yes, sorry.
No, Reagan who said, we're never more than one generation away from losing our nation. Why? Because the youth becomes the leadership of the next generation. So knowing what they've done to our school systems from the earliest point up all the way to college, he's brainwashed them, told them communism was good, capitalism was bad. So what's the first thing he did? He came in and said, I'm getting rid of the Federal Department of Education. Mom and dad, you no longer have to have your kids inflicted by having to listen to transvestites story times. We're getting our education system back. We're getting our media back. We're getting our entertainment back. And we're getting our religion back. And so there's an assault against all of these, and they're all being brought back to where they were when America was founded. Our founding principles are being restored. And it all comes from he who controls money has the power to control the spheres of influence, and it's now changing to the Patriot side of the equation. Comments before we go on?
No.
Yes, we have to.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
I mean, they wanted to create a one world religion. That was that was their goal. But in the future, what do you think religions will exist, and do you think we will, all the religions now will still exist, but people will have a much better knowledge of, you know, what they've lied to us about religion, basically? And
the truth will set us free. So let's go to the Vatican. Now you're going to the second sphere of influence. And basically what happened is, while we have the formation of a one world government, the Vatican has been calling for the formation of a one world religion. And they've called people in and said, hey, we don't care if you're a sorcerer. We don't care if you're into black magic. All the religions of the world should come together. We should have a one world religion. So now that queued up, here's what's going to happen. What's happening is around the world, the tsunami of truth is coming out. And here's the truth that's going to change this equation. We're going to find out that our medical system was taken over, and all the homeopaths were taken out because what? They took over the education system for the medical field and drove those people out and drove us into pharmakia, that means poison, right? And then when we come to religion, they basically took over. They kept putting in the 501Cs. When we were founded, here's what was happening. We had independent pastors at the pulpit who preached against the British from the pulpit, and the people said, we'll follow you if you go out and fight with us. And so we had the Black Robe Regiment that was instrumental in winning the American Revolution. They didn't engage in big battles. They cut off the supply lines in the forest. They were rebels who made it difficult for the British to get the supplies. No supplies, no war, right? So now we've got 501c says, no. You can't speak politics from the pulpit. And so basically they've muzzled the church, and we're about to find out about that in detail. And we're about to find out that, guess what? God said to me, you're going to be a student of the Bible, but you're never going to seminary school. And I should maybe tell this side story. I'm going through the worst time of my life. I'm going through a divorce. In '08, I lost $1.85 million. I've lost my business, and I'm feeling unbelievably sorry for myself. I'm having a pity party, and I'm in a Bible study, and unlocks this blind lady. There's just a few of us there, and she says, I'm here to have the pastor pray for my eyesight. He lays hands on her. He falls down to the floor. She's an amazing prophet, and here's what happens. He says, will you pray for everybody? God says, Larry, you're last. So she whispered in everybody's ear, and they fell on the floor, and it was amazing. And she got to me, and she's got her hands out, and she keeps saying, put your hands on mine. I'll lean forward, and I'll give you your prophecy. No hands are out for me. And so now I'm getting ready to get chastised by God. At the top of her lungs, she says, I'm here for you. God sent me here for you. And he sent me here to tell you that you're about to lose the mantle that I'm giving you because you're wallowing like a pig in a pit of pity because what happened to you. It was here to teach you. Stand up, be a man, and I'm going to take you on the journey that you were meant to be. So she mentored me for 3 years, and I now had no business. I had plenty of time. She was blind. We met every day for 3 or 4 hours a day. That was my substitute for going to seminary school, because guess what? When you go to seminary school, you're going to the Rockefeller Rothschild controlled indoctrination system. So we're going to get that truth, and here's what's happening. It's happening all over the world. God's going to come in, and how did Christ win all the people of his in his time? He didn't get up and preach. He got up and said signs, wonders, and miracles. He said, I serve a God. My Father in heaven can do anything. There is nothing that is impossible. So what we're going to get that's going to change that entire dynamic is we're going to give a whole generation of kids who didn't need to go to seminary school. They're going to get filled with the Holy Spirit, and they're going to go out just like in times of old to the streets, and they're going to lay hands on people, and we're going to see the big mega churches that have been bought and paid for fall, and all the denominations of the world are going to experience what? The infilling of the Holy Spirit, and that is going to change the world. We're moving from a religious dogma, and I don't care what denomination it is, into an enlightened, spiritually enlightened, God-illuminated world, and that's what's coming.
Yeah.
And all with that, all the division goes away. The denominations go away, and everybody has the infilling of the Holy Spirit, and we walk in signs, wonders, and miracles, and we understand that God is a God who's omnipresent. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. He's all loving. We are his children. He loves us. We're made in his image, and we are promised that I have all of the power that Christ had, and Christ said, these things that I do, you will do and more. That's what we're going to have, and that's going to change the world. I hope that answers your question, Stu.
Yeah, lovely. Do you want to go on to the next slide?
Yep, we can. Now, this is going to look like a repeat, but there's a reason. So that's the same 10 points you saw before that basically determine who controls the world, but there's this different spin on it. America first. What does it mean? All those 10 things are directed at accomplishing one thing. They're the requirements for peace and prosperity. If you don't have all of those 10 things, you can't have peace and prosperity, because you still have division. You still have lack of parity. You still have struggle and strife. And so basically, there's the last of your formula. We fight our battle to restore all 10 of those things, and the outcome is peace and prosperity, parity, no longer able to divide the world. And we all come to understand this simple thing. Christ was asked, Master, what's the most important scripture in the Bible? To love thy Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul. And the second is as unto it, to love thy neighbor as thy friend. And then I personally learned this out of that. To harm another is to harm myself. The whole world is going to learn that, and we're going to walk with respect to every single human being on the planet and to the planet itself. And everything is going to go through a metamorphosis, and it's going to be amazing. So, comments on that before we go on?
No, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Next one. Elisa, no?
No, I'm good.
All right, so now we're going to go into those 10 bullet points and we're going to break them down. Now, in this episode, we're only going to get through 2 because I had to lay a whole lot of foundation. So if you have me back in a week or so, we'll cover the remaining 8. But so what are we going to do? First one is we must have sovereign currency. So how are we getting it? Deglobalization and de-dollarization. That's what's going to bring down the global financial elite. So the power that's vested in China by being the manufacturing center of the world is being taken away. And if you go in and do a little research, you'll find that by the end of this year, the expectation is that China will have lost somewhere between 90 and 95% of all their factories, having been disseminated. First and foremost, this is important when you pan out and you want to look at the geopolitical structure of the world. Where is that manufacturing going? To its neighbor, India, to its neighbor, Vietnam, to Southeast Asia, to that. And what's happening is that's changing the geopolitical power of the world. And so America has to shift with it. And so basically, that's why we've got to pay attention to the Western Hemisphere and what's happening in Mexico, Latin America, and South America, because that's going to be important to America going forward. But basically, peace and prosperity. So deglobalization has to happen. De-dollarization has to happen. The fiat currency has to collapse. And we have to come back in where trade is distributed all around the world. Now, I don't want to send you off on the wrong track here. A lot of what's coming out of China is going to come here because they're going to get, that region is going to get the lower tech stuff. We're going to get the high tech stuff. God has already ordained that America is going to be the nation that basically drives the next technological revolution. And Trump already queued us up when he got the Chevron deal, the decision reversed, that said we have 6,000 patents that we can tap into. So America is about to become the economic and manufacturing superpower of the world. And then a restored America will share all that technology and all that wealth with the rest of the world. But in the process, we have to deglobalize. Trade's got to go to all the nations of the world so they all have income coming in. And we can't have the U.S. leveraging nations the way it does. So basically, we have to de-dollarize, and it's going to be probably 4 or 5 different companies that will share the title of being the global world's reserve currency. But the United States, because of the genius you're going to see from what Trump is doing, is going to come out not as the sole reserve currency, but still the dominant reserve currency. And it's going to reestablish its position as the dominant manufacturing system in the world, but not the sole of anything. No one nation is going to control the world going forward. There are going to be relative parity between all nations. And that's going to result in what you see over the left-hand side, not war, but peace. So go on.
Next slide.
All right, this is the system that God showed me in 1968. He said the whole economic system of the world is going to change, but it's going to depend on technology that does not exist today. So we have to have quantum financial systems that can compute data so fast you can't even believe it. And we have to have the ability to have not fiat currency that comes off from printing press, but we have to be able to tap into God's definition of what wealth is. That's the gold and the silver and the cattle on 1,000 hills and the wheat and all the natural resources of the world. But they couldn't be used as currency in our old system. We have to have something that can fractionalize them and digitize them and allow them to be transferred around the world as a medium exchange in a matter of seconds for a fraction of nothing. That is the system that's coming out. We're about to embark on a system that takes us from paper to basically commodities that can be fractionalized and used so that you can have $1 million worth of gold, and you can have 1 penny because you can fractionalize it to whatever denomination you want. Try going into a grocery store and buying a loaf of bread with a gold coin worth $4,000. But you can, and a tanker full of oil worth $10 million. But it can all be fractionalized down to the most finite level. And so it all becomes money, God's money. The wealth that he put in the ground is going to become available and readily usable by mankind, and that's going to change the world. This next slide will take us into the genius of what God gave Trump and why Trump is our president at this particular point in time. Shall we go on?
Yeah,
Yes.
I just want to say, I've just recently seen that clip of Kim Clement saying, I see an X and I see the letter P. Have you seen that little clip?
Oh, absolutely. I'll digress with the side story. All right. This is kind of, Elisa, what you were talking about. I want to bring in some of what you were talking about the finances. So I lost 1.85 million. Remember, I'm walling in pity, and God says, stand up. And I says, look, a month later, I got a prophecy, the most amazing prophecy I've ever seen. This black prophet from California. I went down into the inner city of Chicago, where all the crime is. I'm the only white guy. I walk into this church and I get there early and I'm sitting in the front row and I wait for prophecy. No prophecy. He leaves. All of a sudden, he gets to the back door. He stops. He turns around. He comes back and says, God said to you, you've been faithful. He says, in the due course of time, when your hair is salt and pepper, I will restore everything, all your relationships, all your finances, your health, everything the cankerworm stole will be taken, and I will make you worth $1 billion in real estate. And I can't tell you what that is, but it's at the door. Anyway, bottom line, here's what happens. God works in mysterious ways, and he is the Father of all things, and we just need to get our mindset into that. So with that, let's go to this next slide and we'll show you what God is orchestrating to save the world. So oops, I guess I'm one slide off, so let me go back here. Voltaire said no, that's okay, go to that one. My slides must be out of order. So Voltaire said that eventually all paper currencies return to their ultimate value, which is zero. So once we get this new financial system, here's what happens. Basically, they can no longer inflict inflation, deflation, wage suppression, stock market manipulation, boom bust cycles, national consumer debt, poverty and division, and global conflicts, because guess what? They don't control the financial system anymore. It's controlled by God. It's on God's economy. And basically, they've just lost all of their power. And God has given it to we, the people. That's what's coming. And if I've got the slide queued up, and I don't know how the slide's got to water. Let's see what you've got for the next slide. Well, I'm missing a slide here, so I'm going to go off of my slide over here. I'm going to tell you the genius of what Donald Trump is doing to make this a soft collapse, and why God chose him and calls him as David, why he called him as Cyrus, because like Cyrus, he restored the wall, because like David, he's going to take down the giant. And here's what he's done. When we move into this new system, here's what Trump is doing. He's establishing, taking us out the fiat system, and he's establishing in U.S. as the global leader of cryptocurrency. I'll come back to that in a minute. He's devaluing the dollar. That's why he's putting all that pressure on the Fed. And that seems like that would be backwards. But basically, when your currency is lower, your prices are cheaper in the international market. So he's doing that for a couple of reasons. And then he's establishing, he wants to bring confidence back in the dollar. And because we've lost all confidence in the dollar, so he's establishing a Bitcoin and XRP strategic reserve to give confidence back to the dollar. And then he's transitioning from the fiat dollar to a commodity-backed economy. And here's what the magic is. The world doesn't want to be controlled by communist China or communist Russia or Iran. They trust America more than any other nation, but they have to trust our currency. And so they now, not only if the American currency is trustworthy again, because it's backed by gold, by XRP, by Bitcoin, by all the material assets that he's getting, the resources, contracts he's getting around the world. But now we come into a digital world. And here's what happened. A few years ago, China controlled Bitcoin. They did over half of the world. I think it was 60 or more % of the mining of Bitcoin. Trump comes in and says, we are going to be the crypto capital of the world. And where is that important? Let's go to Africa. Africa didn't go to landlines. They went straight to what? Cell phones. They don't have banks. They're going straight to the banking system. Means they're going to digital currency, which means that America's currency is not only going to be trusted, but if we're the crypto capital of the world, we're the most convenient currency of the world to use. We come out of this collapse, remember, as I said before, as the world's what am I trying to say? Premier currency, not sole reserve currency, but the dominant reserve currency. And we do it because of how Trump is orchestrating this financial reset, where we not only devalue our dollar, but we back it by something that's demand from the world, and that is automatic, instantaneous access, transfer money around the world in a nanosecond for next to nothing from anywhere in the world from your cell phone. That's what Trump is orchestrating. So questions on that before? I don't know how the slides got out of order, but then we'll go to this one. But do you have comments on that? That was a lot that I spit out at you.
Do Trump's executive orders come into this about confiscation of assets, about people involved in all these things, EO 13, 848 and 818 and things like that we've heard so much about?
Do you know the answer to that question? You're just setting me up. You probably, you sly fox, you probably heard about the capitulation tour, and you probably know what the RICO Act is, and you probably know about the executive orders that Trump passed that basically said, we're invoking a form of RICO. Anybody out there, anywhere, any of you puppeteers who are controlling us, we got you. We know everything. And what did those just commit? Those wasn't for what they told you it was for.
Right.
It wasn't going to get $2 trillion worth of wasted fraud. It was going to follow the money trail and find out who the bad guys were and confiscate their wealth. And so if anybody thinks America doesn't have the money to create a gold-backed system, they're asleep. We have plenty of money. We're going to go into a gold-backed system, a commodity-backed system, and we're going to go on to the leadership role in crypto. And we are once again going to have our currency trusted. And guess what? Let me give you an example. All right, I was in real estate, and I just did a show on this, and I'm going to do more. So let me tell you what they're doing. Remember, it was Reagan who said we're one generation from losing our country, because if we don't have the leadership, the youth become our leadership, we're done. So what have they done to the youth? They said, we're going to make it. Schwab said, you will own nothing and be happy. Bullshit blank. Basically what they've done is said, hey, you guys, you Generation Z and you millennials, you'll never own a home. Here's what they've done. Remember, I was in real estate for years. So on the existing homes, COVID comes in, and what basically they lower interest rates to 3%. The average home price was $200,000. And then since then, here's what they've done. The average mortgage rate now is 7%, and that house has doubled to $400,000. The average income is $65,000. You're $150,000 short of getting a mortgage. You're priced out of buying any new home. And in the existing home, there's more to it than that. But guess what's going to happen? When we get this financial reset, and we're back to my gold again, we're going to go back to prices that existed from 1945 to 1971, and your $400,000 house is probably going to cost something between $20,000 and $40,000, because money will be money. The dollar will be worth a dollar, and the whole reason that those prices went up not was because the houses were valuable, but because the dollar was worthless. And so basically, the entire economic system is going to change, and money is going to be worth something again. And that's going to change your dynamic. Add energy into that, and add in that we're going to get out from under the Fed, have no federal income tax, and you're going to have like Trump says, you're going to get tired of winning. I'd like to know what that feels like. We're going to have one income families again, and we're going to have time to spend time with our families, and we're going to have time to develop self-development so that we become responsible human beings and we have a world of peace. Elisa, you started to say something.
Yeah, I want to add something else to that too. When people are talking about AI now, right, and they're looking at it from the fear position, right? Like it's going to take jobs away. Well, when we don't have to work the way we're working, and as you said, we're able to be human beings and self-development and help one another, will we really want people to be spending their hours picking vegetables and being in fields? No, that's what the AI will be used for. It'll be used for those jobs that will allow people to free up from and be creators and be with their families and help their neighbors and do all this great stuff. So my contention with AI is that it's going to help us through this golden period and to allow people for everyone to have that same life of abundance and freedom.
You're absolutely right. China is innovating like you can't believe. So let's look at the agricultural field, because that's what he's talking about, right? They have done the most amazing things in agriculture you can imagine. They now have robots that can pick cherry tomatoes off of tomato plants. They have cultivation processes. They can harvest crops absolutely automatically. We don't need people out bending over, breaking their backs, pulling crops, and it's happening across all kinds of industries. And what it's going to do is it's going to free us up. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I worked in corporate America. I was very successful, but I hated it because there was never anything. I don't care what I did. I didn't get any satisfaction out of it. Then I was in real estate, and then I lost everything I had. And now what do? I do what God called me to do. I don't have any advertisements. I'm not doing this for money. I'm financially self-sufficient, not rich, but I don't have any debt. And so I can do this as a service to God. And so here's what I say. If a man can do what he loves, he never works a day in his life. So I'm doing what I love. And what's going to happen, to your comment, is we may have to have some kind of guaranteed universal income. I don't know. It'll be very possible because we're not paying insurance and wages and so forth. But it's going to free us up to work towards self-actualization, towards spiritualization. You'll get to know your wife, you get to know your kids, you get to know your neighbor, and everything is going to change. And you'll get to pursue things that lead to spiritual enlightenment and spiritual development, and the world will come out of the quagmire where we're all competing for what we think are unlimited resources, because we're about to find out that in God's world there is no such thing as lack. We've just been denied access to the necessities of life, and we're going to get them back. And when we do, we're also going to get back our time, the most important asset of all, and we can use it for self-actualization. And the world will begin to have spiritual enlightenment, the world, the likes of which we've never seen. So I agree with you 100%.
I'll just make a quick statement, not a question. You mentioned Rico there. That's what these 600,000.
What again?
You mentioned Rico.
Yes.
That's what the 600,000 sealed indictments about. You can get 99 names on each of those. That is a massive case. We have it all is a statement. We have been told. They know who these people are. They might still be hunting out some sting operations and hunting out some minions and things like that. But we have it all. And basically, all three of us on this screen are doing God's calling now, because we are doing this because we love it and we enjoy it, and we want to wake up our fellow brothers and sisters, don't we?
Yep.
We go one, we go all.
There's an army of us out there. God's using all kinds of people with all kinds of different skills, but what it's all about is the Great Awakening. We're all having our eyes open, and the invisible chains of slavery are being broken. Yeah. We're moving into a spirit-filled time on the face of the earth where mankind is going to grow like you can't believe. So we go on to the next slide, and we'll see if we can get synced up. I was behind. There we go. So, is that your next one?
Yeah. Is that one? That one before that?
Okay. Yeah, no, go to the next one. So basically, here we are. Now we're back in sync. Maybe we didn't cover that. I don't know why my slides are in a different order. So anyway, then according to immigration, here's what we're coming at. Basically, people, they think, America was built in immigration, and so we should have an open society and immigrants should always be brought in. No. The immigrants who came here in the first place came here for the same reason we did: freedom from the feudalism system that allowed them to have no freedoms, to look at them as shadowless, nothing but slaves, and wouldn't let them own a home. Well, we brought those people in with the same goals that we had, to have to be self-sufficient, to have the right to own land, to own a home. And basically they built our infrastructure. But we reached a point in 1924 when we said, wait a minute, we've got to slow down immigration because we can't afford it. And so what happened is from 1924 to 1965, we had no immigration, not illegal immigration, not illegal immigration. Why? Because we couldn't support all those poor people coming over. It was collapsing us financially. And also because those people coming in then were all willing to assimilate into the American culture to create the United States of America. The people coming now are being sent here to destroy America from within. So we can't afford this 20 million man army coming in here to drive us into economic collapse and divide us. That's the story of what's going on with illegal immigration. I'm just going to forget my slides and follow yours because somehow or other we got out of sync. So
Larry, I just want to add something, a personal attestment to this. My grandmother, so it would be my great grandmother, right? My great grandmother was pregnant, but her husband at the time, my great grandfather, coming from Italy, was coming to America, and he came here first, and he was going to set things up so that he could go back, she could join him. And she was pregnant. That's why he came by himself, because he said, you'll have the baby, and when the baby's born, you'll come over and I'll have everything set up for you. Well, along comes 1924, and she can't leave Italy because they closed off the quota. Now, I suppose with different countries, they had different rules, different amounts, different this, different that, because she was able to come over, but she had to wait 7 years. So my grandmother was 7 years old, living in Italy with her mom's family, never knew her dad, had no way of coming to the States to be here. Okay. And I'm sure if I have that story, there's tons of other people, if they go back in time, that have a similar situation that happened to them. And what did they do? They waited patiently. They lived their life. My great grandfather did what he needed to do to have things set up, because he was now in America and wanted to become, be an American and have that sense of pride. And I will tell you that my grandmother, who died in 2008, I've never met a person who was so proud of being an American and the patriotism that she had. Okay. Because that's why they came here. They wanted to have a new life and be part of that American dream. So you're absolutely right. People have no clue how many people were affected because we were trying to make it be so that it was going to work in a way that could handle all the people coming. So they don't know their history, and they purposefully, whatever, right? We know it's all plotted out, but they're just making it sound like our nation just let anybody in, anytime, any amount, and it's wrong.
Yeah. It leads to division and poverty. So shall we go on to the next slides? Because otherwise I got another show coming up and we're gonna
oh my goodness. Okay.
So here's what you need. You see, this is global. So what you're seeing there is this is the outcome. We had 9/11 to basically topple us, but we had the Arab Spring. And what happened is they caused a refugee crisis so that millions of Muslims would go into Europe, and they do the same thing here. Oh, when they come in here, what are they doing now? They're protesting here in America. They say, we want the right to vote. We want entitlements. We want Social Security cards. We want all the rights of all the people who waited 7 years to get in here. We want to be American citizens, even though we hate America and want to bring it down. So what happens is these Muslims come in, and they are allowed to have more than one wife, and they're out birthing the Europeans. And Stu, I'm sure you're seeing it in England. And what's happening is now they're standing up and they're saying, hey, we're the majority now, and we want to change the laws. We want to change the government. We want Sharia law. So this whole immigration issue is to bring Europe down, to bring America down, cause chaos around the world, to basically bring angst into every nation they can by bringing people into a nation to rot that nation from the inside out. That's what's happening. That's what's going on.
And I want to just add to that. All of us know, at least I do, because I live in New York, which is, such a melting pot. How many Muslims came to this country the right way? How many of them that truly wanted to be part of the fabric of America came the right way, and they have businesses, and their children, are the next generation, right? They work so the next generation can assimilate and do all that, right? So this really isn't an issue like against the Muslims. It's again the way they have brainwashed people and set this whole thing in motion that makes it, again, separate us to now, it's us against the Muslims. And it's not. It's about who they are empowering to come here, the ones that are just not really looking to be part of the American culture or the British culture or wherever else they emigrated to, but to destabilize that nation. So I think it's important we say that, because there are so many patriots that are Muslim that do not fall into this category. So we don't want to, globalize that.
Let me put a spotlight on that for you. So let's use Iran. And here's what happened in Iran. We have had color revelations forever. We had something called the Three Sisters Oil Company that controlled all of the oil production in Iran. And basically they elected a duly elected president. I can't remember his name right now. It was years ago. And he took over the oil fields and nationalized them. And then what happened is the oil companies went to Eisenhower and said, they've taken away the oil. And Eisenhower agreed to do a color revolution and to basically topple Iran and put the Shah of Iran in. And what happened is the people of Iran had gotten oil proceeds when they had nationalized those, and all of a sudden they were back to getting pennies on the dollar, and they hated the Shah of Iran. And so that was the seed of hatred in the Middle East. And so here's what happened. Those people who got the invitation to come to America, all expenses paid, to destroy America, were the nations that were coming from the nations that we had bombed, that we had economically destroyed, that hated us. But if you look at Iran, I'm going to give you an example of what I think is happening. The people of Iran are living under unbelievable conditions. The women have to wear burqas. They don't have any rights, whatever. They don't want to be living under that system. When Iran falls, there have been prophecies coming from Kim Clement and others that say that there's going to be an amazing Christian revival in Iran. The people of Iran are not our enemies. The ones who are coming here have been hand-selected from nations that hate us because of what we have done to them. So it's not against the Iranian people or the Muslims. It's against basically people who have been traumatized by actions from the global financial elite. Shall we go on?
Yeah, just quickly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the project for the new American century was to go into 7 Middle Eastern countries, wasn't it, and basically destroy them and stuff like that. And this is what's caused a lot of this migration and stuff. But I suggest that, and you know a lot more about this than me, if we do get some sort of NESARA coming in and that, anything like that, and I think this has been softballed out all the time, that one of these potential stipulations of this was that most people that are in countries legally and stuff will want to go home, because that is where they will get the benefit of this NESARA and this redistribution of wealth. And who wouldn't want to be in their own country if there's no war and you're going to rebuild it?
It's all about self-deportation. Right now, what Trump is trying to do is say, look how many people have self-deported. And when he finally gets away to taking all the stimuluses away, yes, and you're absolutely right. If, for those of your audience who know about NESARA, there is a requirement that says all military has to stand down. We can't have this economic system except in peace. And so there is a requirement that says if you want what's coming to you through NESARA, you must go back to your nation of origin. And so basically all of this is reversing, every bit of it.
Yes.
So right now we're still in the middle of illegal immigration, so I want you to see a little bit. I think I got back in sync with you on the slides. Go to the next slide and see if I'm queued up right. So, Lisa, this goes to a story that you told. Here we go, thinking your grandmother. So here's something. Look at the picture to the right. Why we had the 14th Amendment was we were freeing the slaves and we wanted to give citizenship to their children. So we had birthright citizenship, and they've usurped it. And what they've done is now you can go to a travel agency anywhere around the world, and they'll have advertisements for birthright tourism. And here's what they're saying. Hey, you want to go to America? You don't need to come in through Mexico and have to deal with the cartels. Just go on a vacation to America. Wait until your tummy's nice and full and that watermelon's ready to drop, and go on to a vacation to America. Drop that baby here, and as the guardian of that baby, you'll get to stay in America. And since America is stupid enough to have chain migration, your husband can join you. And now all of his family can join you, and all of your family can join you. And look at that picture down below, and we will feed you and your baby and all of your relatives, and we will flood America with an absolute army of people who have no way to support themselves, and we will drive America into economic bankruptcy because you were stupid enough to have these policies that have been turned against us. Trump just got another win from the Supreme Court, and guess what? We're no longer going to have chain migration. We're no longer going to have birthright. You're going to come to America only one way. You have to prove that you have something that America needs by way of education, that you can be self-sufficient, that you will never be on any entitlement programs, that you will be a plus to the nation, not a drain on the nation. We're winning at every single solitary level. Shall we go on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, guess what? A smoking gun just appeared. And here's what happened. That lady, who Michelle King, is another one of those people who's in trouble. She was ordered to do something. She was ordered to go in and change the computer system at the Social Security Department. This has to do with election integrity and immigration. They're tied together. And now all of a sudden, any illegal immigrant who came in, who applied for Social Security, and believe me, they were told to apply for Social Security cards, were granted one, no questions. So now think about what that does. You know what that does? That means that millions, who knows how many millions of illegal immigrants got a Social Security card. And what is that? That's your citizenship. That's your American citizenship. That's your access to a driver's license, to a job, to Social Security, to entitlements, to health care benefits, to the right to vote. That is the opportunity to skew the entire voting system, because those people, as the next slide is going to tell you, are invariably going to vote for the people who are going to give them the handouts who got them there. And so basically that means they're skewing the elections by putting the power into the hands of the sanctuary cities, of the sanctuary states, of the left, of the global financial elite, in order to see to it that the patriotic Make America Great movement dies on the vine, because they've stolen the election process before we ever show up to vote. Let's go to the next slide.
Hey, Larry, just one quick thing, which I didn't know, and I became aware of this last week. Did you know that you only have to be in this country for like, I don't know, 6 months or some short amount of time, and you can get a job with TSA?
No, but I know that we have police forces in I think New York and certainly in Canada that are filled with Chinese police people. Yeah, they take over everything.
No, it's crazy. Right? Now, I don't know, I can speak for, I've been all over the world, but, and our airport here, JFK, is like an embarrassment, in my opinion. First of all, they're such slovenly acting people. But aside from that, there is no sense of any kind of pride. These people, they share a brain, okay, because they're really stupid. And my point to this is that you have dumbed down so far, and now you're saying, like, if you're working at TSA and you're not even really an American, you don't even know the way our country works, and you're an ambassador to people coming in. I couldn't believe this when I heard it, and I heard it firsthand because a friend of mine came here legally from Pakistan years ago when he was a kid, and he has people in his community, and he was bitching and griping about that he could not believe that some of their family members and friends were coming, and then within, I think it was 4 months, might have only been 4 months, not even 6 months, were able to do this. Which I find a travesty.
I went on a flight recently, and I have a gold star on my driver's license. So I had to show that before I could get on the plane, right? I showed my ID, and the person in front of me was from another country, and they didn't have a driver's license, and all they had to do was they showed a letter. They basically got here. They have an appointment to have a hearing a year from now, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. They showed that paper right on to the airport. So basically, it's all designed to collapse America from the inside. That's all I can say. It just goes deeper down the rabbit hole than people even think. We're going to change the perspective, and guess what? We're going to go to solutions now. How do you like that? I think it's always good to go from the doom and gloom to the sunshine. And so basically what this guy is saying, I'll make it real quick. He's saying that basically if you're going to give the vote to the illegal immigrants through giving them Social Security cards, you better recognize that they're going to vote for the Democrats. They're going to vote for the people who are going to give them entitlements. And that's how we're losing. And there's a whole lot more on the immigration issue, a whole lot more that deals with gerrymandering, that deals with all the various ways where they're stealing the election before we ever even get to the polls. But that's a whole story in itself. So let's go to the next slide, and we're going to go to the good news. We're going to go to how we get our government back. So here we are. It's so simple. The Democrats say, oh, it's so complicated, we can't do it. Trump came in and said, borders closed. That was it. Nobody's coming. We took away the invitation. And so I think of it as like a wedding invitation. So I get a wedding invitation to go to a wedding in Europe. And I say, oh my God, that plane fare, that hotel, that everything, it's going to cost me $5,000. I can't go. But these people are getting an invitation to come to America, all expenses paid. Hey, we'll pay for your travel expenses. We'll buy you food. We'll buy you clothing. We'll give you shelter. When you get here, we'll give you a phone. We'll give you a Social Security card. We'll give you health care benefits. We'll educate your kids. Come on in. So they're going to come. So now what we're going to do is just take it away. Take away the invitation, end the illegal immigration, close the border by doing these simple things. No entitlements of any kind, no subsidies of any kind. If you can't support yourself, you have to get out. No access to public schools. You can't educate your children. No access to medical services. We're not going to turn you away, humanitarians. You go to the emergency room, and I had to go to the emergency room a few months ago, and I walked in, and it was in Springfield, Missouri, and 90% of the people in there were Hispanic, because that's the only place they can go for medical care. So we're going to treat you, but then DEI is going to meet you when you get out and take you out of the country. And so then we go on no driver's license, no ID, no financial support of any kind. What is that? That's an invitation to leave, go home, because you're not going to be able to support yourself here, and we're not going to support you. Let's go on down, and this is my ultimate answer to how we end the immigration issue. Here it is. It's so simple. We need to take accountability for the fact that we allowed for generations, for at least 3 decades, a large number of illegal immigrants to come into this country so they would make up our beds in our hotels, so they would pick the food in our farms and so forth. We allow them to be here. If we try to go in and take away the dreamers that were born here, that have never been in whatever countries their parents are from, we're going to have absolute chaos in this country. We need to understand and set a demarcation line that says if you came into this nation before 2019, before this onslaught, and you have kept your nose clean, you've paid your bills, you've had a job, you've been a good person, then we're going to let you stay. You're not going to get the right to vote, but your children who were born here will get access to being American citizens and vote. And here's how we do it. It's so simple, just like that 4 points you saw on that last slide. I have a medical program that's been discontinued, but I'm grandfathered in, so I get that medical program. All we have to do to end the angst is the 4 things you saw on the previous slide, in addition to this. Instead of getting a gold star that says, hey, you can travel anywhere you want, you get a G on your driver's license. And what it says is, I've been here before 2019. I've kept my nose clean. I've had no criminal activity. I've paid my taxes. And all that. So maybe you're going to get stopped because you look like a Palestinian or you look like a Hispanic or whatever. All you got to do is show your ID with a G on it. They'll run the plate and they'll say, okay, you're here, you're legal, you can stay, and they'll let you go and say, thank you very much, ma'am, thank you very much, sir, have a nice day. So look what we've done. With just these simple things, we have avoided civil war. We've avoided chaos in America. We have allowed those people who we allowed to come in. I don't care what the law said. We allowed it to happen, to stay. And we prevented civil war. And now we are free and able to take away the entitlements. So those who came in from 2019 forward, they're going to leave on their own because they're going to want NESARA benefits, because they're going to want to have education for their system. So if we just close down, so basically Trump says, hey, there ain't nobody at the border anymore, because guess what? They didn't have the money to come here. NGOs were funding them. The UN was funding them. Soros was funding them. Gates was funding them. Our politicians were funding them. They were giving them directions, and they had a treaty agreement rate. So basically, you would come from any country in South America, you were allowed to go from country to country to country to country to country, have egress through all of them to get to Mexico and come across in the United States. Shut it all down, and there's nobody coming across that border now. It's always been simple. The solutions are always simple. The slavery system is complex. So with that is the last slide to our presentation, and I'll promote my book in a second, but why don't we throw it back to you guys and throw any additional questions you have at me or any comments you want to make. And remember, there's 8 more points to this presentation where we dig down into the minutia, but we don't have to go through all that background again, so they'll go fast. So back to you guys.
Well, if you don't mind, Stu, this was so incredible. What I love about your presentation is how educational they are, which is just so important. But if I had like one basic takeaway, because a lot of the stuff in the beginning, I was aware of and a little awake to, but you really broke down for me a really good understanding of the illegal immigration problem and solution to it. And if people understood that, they would probably stop, with half an ear and their whole mouth, screaming and yelling about things, because they don't really understand how this is done. And let's face it, most of us know people that came in before 2019, and these are hardworking people. They're working, they're trying to support their families, they want their kids to be educated and toe the line and become good citizens, women that are washing, cleaning other people's homes and doing all these things. So yes, they've become part of the fabric of our nation. But these other people, I think I was not aware of that.
Real quick. They're like your grandmother. They come here wanting a better future for themselves and their family.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And if we go back and address those 8 remaining issues, we're going to dig down into them just like immigration, and we're going to pull the lies out and expose the truth. So back to you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, perfect. It was a perfect segue. Stu, do you have any parting thoughts?
Not really.
I know Larry has another show.
I asked my questions during, really, but yeah, I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of fake stream media reports about the people that ICE are taking away and deporting. But from what you're saying, and I imagine as well, that a lot of these people are being taken away, processed, finding out about them, and being allowed to stay, pending on what they've contributed to the United States especially. But they are taking out the criminals, and that is the main thing.
Yeah. Larry, one question. We're talking about America, obviously. Is this, I would assume, with NESARA and sort of this voluntary deportation, right, that people are going to want to go back, the good, let's say most people were not sure what their real intent was. But when it comes to these other countries, is this something that you believe is going to be the same device by which they're going to use in these other countries? Because don't forget, so much of Europe, has been completely overrun with immigrants from these nations as well.
Well, the thing that I guess I have to say is people are reluctant to stand up against their governments, right? So we have to have some pain before we stand up. But when we have pain, we stand up. So let's look at Europe and let's say, are they having pain? And actually, they're having more pain than we're having. The economic pressure on Europe is worse than the economic pressure on America. They've got a significant shortage of energy. Their energy costs are through the roof. They've not been innovating. They've been relying on the United States for the military protection, and Europe is in real trouble. So what's been going on in France for the last 3-4 years? We had the Brexit where Britain got out of Europe, and now we have the yellow vest protests going on all over France, and we got Germany, the strongest economic system there, in trouble. And what are people beginning to say? Look at this slide that we had. Stop the Islamic immigration, the invasion. And so basically what they're seeing now is they're now getting enough power. They're standing up and saying, we want political rights. We want to change to Sharia law. That's a step too far. So the people in Europe are beginning to wake up. They're beginning to stand up, and basically they've already started closing their borders. And now I don't know specifically what they do. Stu probably knows more than me, but they're going to have to get the entire demographic of Europe changed. But those people aren't going to go back to a Middle East that's in war. So what's Trump doing? He's negotiating the Abraham Accord, bringing peace. And so now let me just put it in human terms. If I had to leave my family, leave my homeland, leave all my relatives, and go someplace for safety and security, and maybe I wasn't completely embraced in that nation, if my nation comes back to peace, if my nation gets prosperity again, might I not want to go home and see my family and see my culture that I was raised in? So I think that's what Trump is orchestrating, is the opportunity for these people to go home. And then I think the nations, Europe in particular, will be able to accommodate that in a number of different ways. All the nations of the world are going to follow whoever is leading and showing something that works. So as we show what we're able to do, they're going to adopt those same kinds of things, maybe not identical, but the same kind of things. And basically, we're going to go back. The whole world, when we came over here from Europe, hated one another because of all of the tribal rivalries that had happened. And so now those people are going to go back to where they came from, but it's going to be a different world, and they're not going to have those tribal rivalries. If you look at Africa, I mean, my God, when the continent of Africa got its freedom after World War II, the Europeans said, we're going to break you up into 54 different nations and you can have your freedom. They didn't give them the freedom. I mean, what they did, they broke those nations up so that no one nation was powerful enough to be the leader, and they kept them in poverty so they couldn't build the infrastructure to get access to the natural resources. They're waking up. The whole world is waking up, and each nation is getting its freedom back in the endemic way that represents what is the biggest problem facing them. So for Europe, it's largely immigration. For Africa, it's access to natural resources and the basis of wealth. But it's happening around the world. Each nation is fighting this battle in their own unique endemic way.
Exactly. Yeah. I keep saying to people here that the worse it looks, the better I feel, because it's about this precipice moment and pushing people. They've got to feel this pain so they all stand up and use their voices and rise collectively. Now, here in the UK, we're having lots of problems with immigration. Keep seeing the boats coming across, and the boats, dinghies coming across from France every day, and all these news reports and stuff. Certain things happening in this country, but also now this digital ID is really being pushed on the UK, and a lot of people that buckled in COVID are starting to stand up now and say, I'm not doing this. And we're seeing more and more people all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a simple example of the power of people. Very simple. I went to Steak and Shake. You may not know it. It's a fast food restaurant here in the States. Last time I went to Steak and Shake was during COVID. You know why I didn't go back? Because all of a sudden I walked in, there were no waitresses. There were only kiosks. I had to go and order my food from a kiosk. I had to get my food, whatever. So you know what happened? I went into that. I went into a Steak and Shake again. Now this is since 2019. First time I went in. You know why? Because I drove by and said something's different. I said I've driven by year after year, and their parking lots were empty. They had nobody. And on this day it was full. I said something happened. And I pulled in the parking lot. I went in, and guess what? The kiosks were gone. The waitresses is back. The place was jam-packed full. And why? Because that business was about to go under, because the people didn't want to have kiosk and wanted to have a waitress and wanted to have a dining experience as opposed to interaction with a robot. And so basically we can do that in the grocery stores. We can do that everywhere. All we have to do is, if we stand up in mass, we can change virtually anything.
Yeah.
The people just need to stand up and unite.
Yeah.
Say again?
Mass non-compliance. If everyone just said, no, we're not doing it anymore at the same time, their game is over.
That goes with everything, right? So
Exactly.
Larry, just to kind of put a little bow on this. So we would love to have you back on to do the other 8 remaining issues that you spoke about. And I'm going to put, after we do that, I'm going to say to Stu, I think you would love, and the audience would love, the presentation that Larry has about Africa. If, at some point we can do that, because that one really shows the beauty of what's happening on that, on that continent now.
I think I might have seen you do that before.
I'm sorry, go ahead. What?
Sorry, I think I might have seen you do that presentation before, or parts of it. But yeah, I'd love to see that.
With me a couple of months ago.
Africa is going to become potentially a global superpower rivaling the United States. The 3 global superpowers in the next decade are going to be America, China, and Africa. That's it. Europe has got a lot to do to regroup. They're fractionalized right now. They're not unified like the other 3 entities are, but they'll come back. But the problem with Europe is that it's the core of the shadow government. There's a lot of infestation there that has to be taken out, probably more than in any other place in the world. So the road back for Europe is going to be difficult.
So do you think the European Union
it's already happening? It's happening.
You think the European Union will be broken up and all those countries will be going back to their sovereignty?
I think it's already happening. I think they're pushing for it. I think Britain has already done it. There's no, in my mind, there's no hope that France is not going to collapse. They're basically dragging down the whole rest of the EU with their debt, and basically, if a nation doesn't innovate, it dies a slow death. And Europe has not been innovating. Europe is in financial trouble. They have a lot to do to basically be able to change. But the problem they've been under is they've been under the iron grip of the global financial elite, because that system started there. But like you said, angst has to happen. The yellow vest protests have been going on. You guys got out, and yes, they're going to break it up. But I hate to close on this, but I'm going to, because I need to bring it out. We need to understand that there's a force of evil that controls the world. And we need to understand America has been sleeping with the enemy all along, because people don't read their Bibles. They don't know what's going on. So if we jump forward and close this by going to the Bible, to the book of Revelation, we go to the understanding of what the beast is in the book of Revelation. And the beast is this. There's a lion, and that lion is the symbol of England, and it says that they will be the mouthpiece for the global financial system. Now, I'm talking decades from now. I don't know when this is going to happen. All of this stuff is going to have a period of peace and prosperity in the world, but eventually we go into the beast system. So when that happens, England will be the mouthpiece, because English is the world's language. Germany is involved. They're the leopard, and they're involved in it. Russia is the bear, and they're the sleeping bear, so that now they're rising. Now we're having this war, but they're going to go back to sleep. But when it's all done, then setting on those beasts is a female that's adorned with gems and with crowns and drinking out of a gold cup. And I hate to say it, but that's the Vatican Church. So people, you need to go read your Bible, and you need to understand who the ultimate enemy is, and it's the devil, and it's all described in the book of Revelation. So we need that knowledge to go along with current events, and we'll be able to decipher things. And the more people that wake up to that, the more people will get freedom. I mean, I don't hold any angst to get any nation in Europe. I've been there. I've worked for a French Kerm. I think the people are great. It's just that they're under suppression, even maybe more so than the United States.
Perfect. Can I just ask you one quick question before we go?
Sure.
Right. Okay. I don't even call it NESARA anymore. I've been calling it Trump-SARA for quite a while, because I think it's going to be amalgamations of it, or bits and pieces. But there is 2 NESARAs, isn't there? There was one written in the 90s, I think, and one written in the 2000s. One is the National Economic and Security and Recovery Act, and one is the Reformation Act. Can you just tell me the differences with those 2, and which one is the moody one, and was one written by the Bushes, etc., sort of thing?
I probably don't know the details of that deep enough. I've approached it from a different perspective. I picked it up after the assassination of Kennedy, but it had another grassroots movement to it, and that was with the oppression of the farmers here in the United States. Yeah. It's been a program that's been out there forever, and nobody's ever been able to bring it to fruition until we started with the assassination of Kennedy, and a military group has stayed with it all this time. There's NESARA, which is for the global, and NESARA, which is for the national, but basically they all contain the same basic components. So rather than breaking them down along the line of what you said, I'm just going to basically tell you what NESARA is supposed to accomplish. It's supposed to get us out from under a fiat system, put us on a system that's based on gold and silver, put us on a system that is based on digital assets, put us on a system that's going to give us economic parity, because there's going to be wealth transfer. So what has to happen is a very harsh collapse followed by a quick recovery that takes away money from the global financial elite, brings us into the new economic system based on commodities. And then guess what? People are sitting out here, and we've been under a birth certificate that basically has been used against us. We're under a corporation. All that's going to go away. The nations of the world are going to get their sovereignty, and we're going to, just like we talked about Rico, we're going to take money away from the global financial elite. There are trusts out there holding trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. Kim Clement said the debt is going to go away. There's a whole myriad of ways America is going to get out of it. Debt. It has to do with revaluing gold. It has to do with Trump's strategy for growing America out of debt by basically becoming the manufacturing superpower of the world again, and by controlling currency, crypto. But bottom line is, all the nations of the world are going to get out from under the fiat system, and they're all going to get some of that money coming back to them. So there's going to be economic parity around the world, and all the nations of the world are going to, I predict this is my prediction. This was brought up by, of all people, Gorbachev during the Cold War. He said, you want to end this nonsense with all these wars, with all this fear of Holocaust and so forth? Here's what you do. You go to all the third world nations of the world, and you say, guess what? We are going to give you a loan to build all the infrastructure you need to join in the first world countries with economic parity. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to give you a 100-year moratorium. You don't know what's any interest. We will give you the money to build your infrastructure so that we no longer have the oppressors and the oppressed, and we'll end all war. That's what's going to come out of this. That's what's going to happen. The nations of the world are going to get all the infrastructure. Everybody's going to get access to the natural resources. And here's my definition of what the world looks like under NESARA. I don't care what you call it. Here's what it's going to look like. Basically, we're going to have manufacturing in every nation of the world. We're going to have natural resources from every nation of the world is going to have access to natural resources. And I predict that we will have depositories of natural resources in other countries around the world, so they can no longer create these logistic supply chain breaks that control us. And we won't have one nation controlling computer chips, for example. Everything is going to be spread so that they can't control the natural resources or the logistic chains or the monetary system. And so we're going to break their ability to control us. That's what NESARA is going to do. And when that happens, something else is going to happen. We're going to break the lie of the Green New Deal. And Trump is already disclosing it. Basically, those wind turbines are absolutely worthless. The solar is worthless. We're going to get free energy from sources that have been denied us since the turn of the century. And when that happens, the cost of everything is going to go down. All the central banks are going to be closed. There's not going to be any federal income tax or a tax like it in any other nation of the world. We're not going to have the tax system that we have. And we're going to basically be able to have all nations of the world do this. We're going to no longer manufacture. My sister just bought a new refrigerator a few weeks ago. It was just a few years old. I remember growing up, we had one of those refrigerators with the rounded corners. We had it when I was born, and when I was 30 years old and moved to Chicago, my parents still had it. So guess what?
Built-in obsolescence.
That's right. We've got products that we can make that last forever, and we're going to build them. And the products that we make, we're going to make them so they can be repaired. And what's that going to do? That's going to take one of their essential narratives. Too many of you consuming too many of our valuable resources. No, that's not the problem. The problem is you're making products that are designed to be wasteful, to be energy inefficient, to basically be able to fall apart in a matter of no time. So we're going to have things that are reusable, things that are designed to last forever, and we're going to address worldwide. We're going to address things. We're going to have joint research projects so that every nation can share the benefits of nanotechnology or whatever emerging technology it is, and we're going to address the ecological issues facing the world. So guess what? We got fish farms that are growing fish in the ocean, but they're in confined environments and they're sold. We're going to have places around the world. They're going to have fish farms, and they're going to repopulate the oceans that are now being fished out. And we're going to take every single solitary issue facing the planet, and we're going to join together as all the people of the world, and we're going to solve them. And we're going to create a world in which all the crises that are facing us today are going to be obliterated one by one, because if we stand united and we dedicate ourselves to solving something, the technology already exists to solve those problems. So that's the world I see, and that's a bit beyond what you ask, but it's all related to NESARA.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Right, Larry, I took your thing off. Do you want to just talk about your book quickly?
Well, basically, this book came out. God has me write books in advance. So this book was written 2 years before I actually published it. I had to rewrite it so it was current, but here's what its role is. It's called Liberty Crusade, the fight to save the free world. So we've been in this battle now since COVID, and this book lays the foundation down that you need. It tells you, first of all, something that a lot of Americans don't know. We're not a democracy. We're not socialism. No, we're communism. We're what? A republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And a republic has certain requirements. You have to be educated. You need to have a moral foundation. You need to be self-sufficient, and you need to be informed with the truth. So when you go to vote, you can vote for what's not for who's going to give you the biggest entitlements, but for what's actually in the best interest of society, and that gives us election integrity, and that gives us our government back. So this book was designed to tell the people from the ground floor up what made America great, how we've lost it. And now the next book, which was also written 2 years ago, but was just redone to bring it up to the absolute moment in time, was named 2 years ago. Guess what it's called? Liberty Crusade, Restored Republic. It's coming out in the middle of January, and it's going to lay the foundation. This is the book you need to join the army to fight for the freedom of the world. The next book is all of the intricacies of how we make it happen, how we change the total economic system of the world, how we go in and take advantage of the energy, how we get out from under being controlled by necessities, how we basically manufacture things that are designed to last forever, and how we change the world, and how we learn to bend a knee to Christ, because a good portion of what is in that book talks about the shift of spirituality. But guess what? There's a third book that's queued up and written, and it'll come out towards the last part of 2026. And it's about the spiritual revolution that God's going to bring in. But right now, to get to that, we've got to bend the knee to God and allow God to come in, because he's the ultimate master of who we are as a race. And if we just open our hearts to God, everything's going to be okay. So that's it. So I encourage people to buy that book, because it's foundational to what you need in every nation in the world.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so we're going to get you on again in about a week or so, right, for these other 8 remaining issues to discuss, right?
Stu, it was a pleasure meeting you.
And you, sir.
And I'm praying for Europe, and I believe Europe is they're standing up. They're standing up.
They're standing up. I think one of the biggest issues is that a lot of people, you call them the silent majority in voting and things like that. A lot of people are side-eyeing things, haven't got the courage to speak out yet and things like that. But it's, a lot of people are worried about that. and they're just sort of like sweeping it under the carpet and not coming.
Let me give you some encouragement. Here's what God showed me years and years and years ago, and it's happening right now. He said, "What? I'm going to send you out at the last minute. You're going to be like a racer in a relay race. You'll get the baton and you'll cross the finish line, right?" And he said, "What is in that hand that I give you? The truth. The truth will set the people of the world free. The truth is pouring out all around the world. It's pouring out in Europe. And here's what's going to happen. You see it starting in America. You see announcements of this indictment and that indictment and the next indictment. You hear whispers about Obama being arrested. It's going to come out in America. It's going to come out in Europe. It's going to come out all over the world. We're going to find out about the election thefts in 27 different nations. We're going to find out about the immigration issue. And when all that happens, guess what? The tsunami of truth comes out, and it's undeniable. And they can't call you conspiracy theorists anymore. And all those people that you were saying are afraid to stand up are going to be empowered to stand up, because the truth will have set them free, and they will understand this. We are not the minority. We have a vocal minority that's bought and paid for. We are 80 or 90% of the world, and we are going to win. All we have to do is stand up. And so I'll close on this, another story from history. Basically, we fought the American Revolution in order to get our freedom. But we didn't get our freedom. You know why? Because we went bankrupt. And before Washington was out of office, the very reason we fought that war was irrelevant, because we were under the Central Bank of England. And so now what happened in India? India didn't fight a war to get its freedom. India simply did what Trump is doing right now. They stood up and looked England in the eye and said, guess what? We win, you lose. We're not going to participate in your economic system, and we're going to bring you down, and we're going to get our freedom. And they rallied around one man, Gandhi, a lawyer and a religious leader, and they boycotted Europe, and they got their freedom. And that's what America's doing, and that's what Europe is going to do too. And that's what nations all around the world are going to do. We're going to say, guess what? The jig is up. We're not participating in our own slavery. We're not going to participate in your economic slavery system. We're demanding a new system, and that's what's happening. So the truth is pouring out, and when it does, all those people you say who are afraid to stand up are going to realize, hey, there's way more of us than there are of them, and all we got to do is stand up in one voice, and they're done, absolutely done.
4 words: drip, 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 flood.
You got it.
Exactly that. Well,
all right, guys. Let you go. Say again. I didn't hear you. What?
Sorry, what did you say, Larry? I was just saying thank you.
No, I was just saying thank you. I thought you guys were ready to close.
Yeah,
anyway,
okay, right. Because we're talking about people waking up, I've just put a little 1.5 minute outro video on. It's from Stockwell Control, David Sorensen's website. He's doing some absolutely great stuff. But this just tells people that, come on, it's all of us together, and we win, God wins. And yes. I look forward to seeing you again, Larry. Thank you.
I just thought of something. We got a voice here in England right now, right? Well, when my book comes out, it's not from one of the big publishers, because guess what? They won't touch the truth. But I've got a nice medium-sized publisher, and guess what? My book coming out in January is going to be available online in all the bookstores in England and on Amazon. And so people in Europe and in England will be able to buy my book and hear more about the stuff that we're talking about. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye unless you guys got anything else.
No.
Good. Thank you, Larry.
Just get back to me and we'll schedule another show if you want.
We will.
Stu, nice to meet you, Elisa. I'll talk to you again. Be blessed, you guys. Bye-bye.
Much love, Larry. Thank you.